That not allowing it.
Yeah, I think we're good.
It got it for me.
Hang on one sec, I'm almost done.
I
I'll
can
call you
do
back.
I can do the rest.
Down towards Hardee's. If you come down 19, I'm the brick house. Almost to Hardee's, it's on the right. So if you go down to the difference of brick house. Just bring it down second.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the brick house.
Because it's the end coming off of.
Can't go. If you're going to.
Okay,
Okay, we
there
ready?
you are.
Okay, call the Public Works meeting to order. Welcome all the guests we have here today and welcome to County Highway. Thanks Devin for hosting us today. You know, I think he wanted to show off how tight his building is up here, you know, just so first on the agenda is the NISAC Winter Conference resolutions. You can review them. If you have any questions, direct them to Ellen because she attended the meeting. I didn't. It was on the same time as public safety. A lot of them look like the same ones we've seen in the past, looking for more CHIPS money, et cetera. So,
Actually, kind of surprised me, the only one that usually is on there has to deal with airports. And they didn't have one this year.
there is, yeah,
Oh, there?
yeah. Promote the post-COVID recovery and transformation of New
Yes,
York
I'm sorry.
airports.
Yep.
And there is something that came out, that's it wasn't through New York State, it's through the FAA. And they call it the Bill. It was, it allows us $159,000 a year for the next 4 years to do certain things at the airport. We're gonna try to get it a different terminal up there. We don't know if we qualify or not. Most of it's for larger airports, but if we don't ask, we don't know.
And then I think number 3 has already been built into the budget. Increase in CHIPS bidding threshold. And then there's more money in there for state aid and for the pothole program. And then number 4.
See, there was something about Bridge New York, one making it more efficient,
That was that first
more
one.
timelier manner. I know we did receive a Bridge New York grant for the, I'm gonna call it Walker Road, you call it Silver Lake Road there at the outlet of Silver Lake.
We still release the information very quickly, so we're kind of sitting in limbo for a while.
I knew it was like December before we heard that we were gonna get that funding. Okay, you have a motion to accept those resolutions?
I'll make them.
Motion by Supervisor Grant. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Right on to Connor Kimball. I see that new Connor in the back there. You want to come up front here so you all can see him regarding, he's from Enterprise Vehicle Leasing. And talked about the vehicle leasing program.
Absolutely. So I brought everyone some handouts here. I can pass those out if you guys would like. Thank you. Of course. Thank you all for having me this morning. Give you guys a little background. My name is Connor Kimball from the Rochester area. I've been working for Enterprise for over 6 years. With our fleet management program, we work with government entities, municipalities, and private companies to help reduce their overall cost of owning and operating their fleet of vehicles. We currently work with all your surrounding counties with their fleets. After meeting with Devin and Mike, we reviewed the buildings and grounds department as well as the highway vehicles. And I put together a synopsis and analysis in which we have a program in which we can reduce the overall age of your fleet and significantly reduce the overall cost of owning and operating, and have an overall 10-year savings of about $583,000 by following through that plan. So if we could take a quick look on page 1, kind of the current situation of how you're operating. You have 17% of your vehicles that are over 10 years old. You have 43% of your vehicles that are over 6 years old. And your current average age of your fleet is just under 7 years. And your current holding period is just under 11 years. So what we're proposing is creating a structured program through our open and equity lease, which is kind of a hybrid between a finance and a lease. There is no wear and tear penalties. There's no mileage restrictions, but we use your government buying power going directly through manufacturers to acquire very inexpensively, run these vehicles for the useful life, use our selling power as the biggest buyer and seller of vehicles in North America to have a high return and reduce your overall operational spend. So by using our program, reducing your age from about 11 years or holding period from 11 years down to about 3 by cycling these vehicles, newer, nicer vehicles, you're running into less operational spend from a maintenance and fuel standpoint. We have a 10-year projection of $583,000 in savings. Some of the key points that we wanted to focus on. Currently, you have one vehicle that outdates the anti-lock brake system. So from a safety standpoint, there's some vehicles that could be using updating. 3 vehicles from these 23 that have no electronic stability control, and then 17 vehicles predate the backup camera. Again, all safety issues that can be carried on with the operators of those vehicles. From a due diligence standpoint, we were awarded best value through Sourcewell. So that's an RFP that can be piggybacked, which was done through Erie County, Genesee County, and our surrounding counties. So it makes the process of partaking in the program quite simple and quite easy. With our turnover and taking into this program, you have an average maintenance cost per month per vehicle of $153.34. Now, Devin was kind enough to provide me with your current data of all of your maintenance costs, all of your fuel costs. So this analysis is based on your current data. So it's all projected off of exactly how you're operating. So we have an opportunity to reduce your maintenance spend by 20% and a sustainable yearly savings of about $30,000. Before moving on to take a look at the profile and the analysis, does anyone have any questions of the structure of the program or how we're able to come about those savings?
Can you just say one more time? You said you took the vehicles that were in buildings and grounds and in county
And
highway,
highway.
and that was that, right? Not
That was
That's it for now.
oh, for now. Okay, okay.
for most of our counties, cities, any municipalities that we work with. We typically work with all departments. We work with
Right.
police. The more vehicles included, the higher savings possibility there is.
Okay.
20 correct to enter the program.
Correct, exactly. So that's where we started. Initially talked with Devin, who operated 17, then I met with Mike. He introduced his 6 vehicles, so that puts us at 23 for this current analysis. But we can always add vehicles in. It's very customizable. You can add, subtract vehicles as you see fit.
Mhm.
You mentioned the last sentence there, the annual savings of 30,000. Is that included in the 50,000 that you mentioned before, or is that additional?
So the annual sustainable savings is just from operating these vehicles on our lease program. The overall $583,000 dollars in savings over the 10-year period, that is inclusive of the equity you're going to be receiving from the sale of your vehicles and the sale of our leased vehicles. So that's really taking advantage of operating these vehicles. Like I said, you guys purchase very well as a government entity. We operate these vehicles for very low cost, and we're the biggest seller of vehicles in North America. So our ability to sell at 109% above Black Book CVI, which is the wholesale market index, allows you guys to really reduce your amount of depreciation paid on that vehicle and overall see a significant savings from your operational spend as well.
And I think with our difficulty in even getting vehicles, I think they could help a lot with that.
That's a key component as well. As we all know with the industry right now, it is extremely hard. Inventory is down 68% just in dealership lots. They're being marked up on an average from $2,300 to $4,000. So even with the buying power you have, going off the dealership lots can yield a higher purchase price. We work directly with manufacturers and meet with them monthly. We do allocation process to make sure that we have all the vehicles you need. They're going directly to the manufacturer. So I would meet with Devin or Mike, spec those vehicles out to exactly what you need. You're not paying for extra features, or you're making sure you're getting the features you need, and you're missing that markup from the dealerships. Once that's implemented, you have your first round of vehicles. We have a very structured process from replacement. We have myself, you have a client strategy manager, and an account fleet coordinator that works directly for you at the county. We collect data from your vehicles operating. We'll sit down with you 2 to 3 times a year to show you exactly what data we're collecting, where we have areas of opportunity, what we recommend to replace. Ultimately, it's your decision. It's always your call, but we will present that data to you on a yearly basis to make sure that we're continuously driving down that cost of ownership.
Connor?
Yes.
A couple of questions.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you offer lease programs for electric vehicles?
We do. That's a great question. So a lot of municipalities are headed in that direction. We can include any vehicle you like. We work with light duty, medium duty. There's a lot of, we work with the highway department in Erie County as well. So we do a lot of their heavy stuff. We can tier it and structure it however you need for each type of vehicle.
Okay. Second question.
Sure.
Do you offer any discount on the leasing program for safe driver programs? We have a safe driver class that we offer to our county employees.
Okay.
I don't know, Becky, is it mandatory? to take that safe driver?
It is. If you have to drive a vehicle, it is.
If you drive a county vehicle, does the leasing program take that into account?
So typically that'll be, relative to your insurance premiums. Tell me if I'm correct with that.
Yeah.
So that'll directly correlate there. It doesn't discount our leasing program because we're piggybacking off of our award from Sourcewell. You guys have set pricing, so all of our government entities have discounted pricing with us from the get-go.
Okay. So the last question, how are accident, property damage liability claims handled?
It's the same.
under leasing?
Identical to how you do it
Yeah.
today.
Today.
Nothing changes.
Yeah.
A lot of the times leasing newer, nicer vehicles will actually reduce premiums in some cases because it's less of a liability than operating older vehicles. But as far as accidents, claims, it's all handled exactly the same. We do offer insurance, but a lot of the times government entities are somewhat, split between self-insured or they have a third-party carrier, passes right over.
And lastly, do we perform the maintenance on those vehicles as we have been doing with our county owned vehicles?
Also a great question. So you have the option to do both. For a great example of a hybrid, I'm working with, we just recently partnered with the town of Webster. Now, not as large as what you would be, but they have some vehicles or some departments in which they outsource the maintenance. We have a full maintenance program in which we fix and budget that process. We build in tires, brakes, anything that you would need to be included. We can set that up for you. And that's, again, based on your departments. If you have internal maintenance programs, which they have most of their vehicles under, you keep that as is. You have your own team facilitating that maintenance. We can actually set up our technology to link together so you can track your POs, you can track all the costs, and it's all on one platform. It's free of cost. That's part of the program. We can initiate that for you. But from an accounting standpoint, it's all right there. It's very easy to track. From an operational standpoint, and management standpoint, you have everything you need on one platform. But as far as your maintenance, that can be handled however you all choose to do.
So it would remain as it is now.
Because you have mostly in-house for everything, right? Yeah.
Okay.
The major issues with having newer vehicles, the major issues are actually going to go back to the dealer anyway, which they have a list of certified dealers or mechanics to work on these vehicles. The stuff that's covered under manufacturer's warranty.
Okay. And there's no mileage limitations, or there are?
And there's zero. So that's the flexibility of the program. So it's an operating lease rather than what you probably used to hearing from a dealership lease or, a set lease, right? So you have to have a certain mileage pattern. If you go over, you pay a premium.
Right.
If you have wear and tear, you also pay for that. You all retain the rights to the equity. So we operate these vehicles under a lease structure. You operate it exactly how you would. When it's time to sell that vehicle, we sell that for you. There's going to be an undepreciated book value, or it's because we're only operating that vehicle or charging that vehicle for the useful life during that period. We sell the vehicle, we reduce the overall undepreciated value out, and then all that equity goes back to the county. So you have the flexibility of the lease, but you also have all rights to that equity as well. One nice piece too, from an administrative standpoint, we can handle all of the license, the title, the registration. Takes a little bit of work off your plate so you can focus on your job at hand.
The vehicles.
I know that's not fun for anybody.
As our vehicle with lift gate any of that stuff could be added, they vet all that stuff and add all that stuff prior to.
So we need customization.
Great point. Yeah, so
It comes right from them that way. We order it how we need it and it comes to the door. We don't have to do any of that.
Well, I would assume though that we would still handle things like installation of radios.
Oh, for sure.
Things like that.
Lights and things.
So great point as well. So we work with police departments. That's expensive aftermarket equipment. So, and there's things that you're going to want to carry over and reuse as much as you can.
Right.
That's facilitated in-house. These are your vehicles you operate. We hold title, but you operate them as you see fit. We work with construction companies, paving companies, and these vehicles get used and they get used hard. So we're used to that. We have the unique buyers system where we have 19,000 unique buyers. We don't bring vehicles to auction. That's why we have such a high return. So we have folks waiting for our vehicles to purchase them because of our program and because of, our scope. Through operating 2 million vehicles across North America. We have folks that know that we take care of the maintenance that are on our program, so we can sell them for a much higher return. We have a remarketing program where there's 700 employees that just sell rental vehicles and fleet management customer vehicles. So again, we have that where they're buying them privately rather than going to auction to minimize fees. And we have boots on the ground when we do have to go to auctions, washing these vehicles, making sure we get that return.
Is there any initial startup costs for this?
Whatever vehicles you'd like to move forward with. There's no cost. And another thing that I always like to be very transparent about, there is no long-term commitment. We're confident that our program will bring value. You do not have to sign a contract and say, okay, you have to do this many vehicles. You have to partner with us for this many years. You can start with us. I would hope you see the value and I'm very confident you would, but let's say it doesn't work out. You're not a fan of what's going on. You don't see the value. You can buy the vehicles out. We can run those vehicles out from an extended lease. There's not going to be penalties involved in that. We make the process very simple because again, we're confident in the program itself.
So we could buy our own vehicles if we decided that this didn't work, rather than having them go back to you and be auctioned off.
We do whatever you want us to do. We're your consultants. So this is you're always ultimately making your decisions for the county. We are just providing you the data. We have technology, we have the data capture, we have many partners that we can provide. We kind of set the market, if you will, we do set the market. We're the biggest buyer of vehicles in North America and seller of vehicles. We have insight on what's happening with manufacturers. So like right now, GM is opening up in May. We have Ford opening up in July, and we have Ram opening up in June. I will facilitate all the incentives for you. You obviously get your government incentives. If there's anything left on the table, I will find that, making sure you're getting the best purchase price. We track the orders, everything is done for you and we just continue to keep you informed. You'll all have access to the website too. So
It's all viewable. That's the nice part.
it's very, very
I
transparent.
know everything that's going on with every vehicle. It's right there on that giant spreadsheet. He showed us a couple weeks ago. It's absolutely amazing, the spreadsheet on this deal.
Yeah, we recently, our company put about $20 million into the tech. So that was some of the feedback we got from about 2-3 years ago. They wanted something more user-friendly. We all do, right? That's something that we can all agree upon. You can have certain access to your drivers. You can have more access to management, however you want it structured. You have alerts that go out to your drivers on necessary maintenance that's due. It's all tracking your mileage. We can put values on those vehicles. When we're selling the vehicles, all of the sale prices will come in return. Our maintenance programs, if you choose to participate or not, there's tracking and savings tracking as well. Accounting, it'll spill out spreadsheets. We sit down and go over every invoice every month, make sure everything looks right, give you a month in advance, prepare for your budgets. I mean, it's all inclusive and we try to make it as simple as possible for you.
And will this affect our grant funding? Because I know the grant funding says you can purchase something. Is there anything in the grant funding that says you can't lease something?
No, they've leased in the
Okay,
past.
All right, I
Yeah.
just want to know.
You have customers who pay for their vehicles using grant money.
We would believe we do. I think it's every municipality runs differently, right? So it's a matter of how you choose to do so. But I mean, if we want to, not to jump ahead, but if everyone could please flip to the fleet planning analysis. That'll kind of help answer that question. So our goal is to do more with less, right? As government entities, you're constantly asked to do more with less. So our goal is to help you achieve that. So by not putting all your cash upfront and purchasing these vehicles wholesale, we structure over a lease over a period of time. We know exactly what you're paying. But in year one, we can see an immediate net cash savings of 210,000, and we're still replacing 12 vehicles. We're selling 12 of those vehicles. The very conservative estimated values on selling those first initial 12 vehicles is 188,000. That's your equity. That rolls into, you can either take that as a check or you can roll it into your replacement payments to reduce your upfront costs. But just by reducing the operational spend, fuel spend, again, using this data, you're operating newer, nicer vehicles and looking at fuel degradation. You're only looking at non-preventative maintenance, so oil changes, tire rotations, lube, filter, all of that fun stuff. But you're not looking at expensive repairs because we're running these vehicles on an average of 3 to 5 years. I want to also kind of give a big plus from a neighboring county. I won't give the information because we're not going to share that. It is confidential, but we set up a budget where they were initially looking at $73,000 accepted budget for one of the departments. They were replacing vehicles because they were upgrading vehicles. It was about 10 grand higher, right around 89,000 because of the sale and because of how well we do from a sales standpoint. They saw $22,000 savings this year, just recently with their orders because of the ability for us to sell those vehicles. You know, we're going to be conservative with everything. The last thing we want to do is give you numbers and not hit that. But that's going to free money up as you continue this process as well. Also, if there's vehicles that you do not necessarily want to replace, you know, these recommendations are what I would do if I was managing the fleet right now. Obviously, those are moving targets and things change. If you have vehicles, you know what, it doesn't make sense to replace this now. It's very flexible. Again, it's always your decision. But what we can do is we can adjust this, structure the plan however you see fit, and make it very sustainable and proactive, where you're always going to see the maximized savings, and it's still relative to what you need to do in your operation.
Is it possible to do like department by department? Because right now you've got
100%.
highway and buildings and grounds.
Mhm.
But maybe two of the departments could see it individually with their own vehicles. That might.
So what we do is we look at it holistically, but from a budget standpoint, I completely understand a lot of, like, Erie County is the same way. So we call it sub-customers, meaning it's all under, you know, if it was to do the same thing, if Wyoming County, do Wyoming County, then you have highway,
Yep.
buildings, grounds,
Sheriff.
DSS,
Yep.
sheriff,
Yep.
whatever it might be.
Okay.
So we can so you get your own bill, you kind of work on your own budget. But when we present this analysis, we do everything all encompassing, so you can really get a full scope of how that savings is being applied to the county as a whole.
Mhm. Okay.
Is there ability to have a carpool? Because we have some departments that have a car like real property, and they get the hand-me-downs from building and codes, you know, that sits in the parking over there at the government center, you know, 75% of the time. But if they need a car, you know, they can go and get
Gotta
one,
have it.
and, you know, instead of tying something up all the time.
No, that makes sense. And we will run the numbers on that. So we have options of rentals, right? We are obviously affiliated with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So that's an option we can do when certain needs, when you have it, we can kind of structure that. We do have carpool options. I'd have to take a look into, you know, where the coverage is for this location. But what we also do, we do run leases on very short terms. We can do a net lease, which is a little different, right? It's that traditional dealership lease. But you can do that for like 12 months, turn it over, and there's still equity to be gained on that. What our municipalities are seeing by running certain vehicles, sometimes we'll put them on 12-month leases. It's not something that's a lot of municipalities are used to. It's usually buy and hold, right? And then sell it once the vehicle's done. By buying the vehicle as cheaply as you all do from government entities, and the way we can sell it, especially where the market is, we have actually government clients that are net profiting from running a vehicle for 12 months because we're selling it for more than you bought. So that's an option for vehicles that get very minimal use, especially with low mileage. There's a very high chance of that being potentially profitable.
All this analysis is just based on buildings and grounds and highway.
Mhm.
It's not included. I don't know how many other vehicles we have in other
I
departments.
was just thinking we probably have another 30.
Yeah.
Of these 23.
I invited Laura.
She's watching. She's listening. Yeah.
Laura should be on,
Mhm.
Don Roberts. I
Yep.
invited Don. I don't know what he had going on today, but I know the groups that have
Mhm.
the core vehicles for the county is why I invited
Mhm.
just to listen in. I mean, it's-
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We deal in the agricultural field.
We
A lot
do.
of the big farmers are leased their, a lot of their equipment.
We do. We work with Dairy One. We work with All Nine, which is bulk milk, and then they do petroleum as well. We work with ACS. So, and then I'm working with a couple other companies right now to finalize, but they're in the agricultural field as well. We work with private companies, construction, I mean, you name it. Anyone that operates 20 or more vehicles, we work with.
A lot of equipment is hard to come by today.
Mhm.
So what do you do if the county here needs a certain piece of equipment that's not available?
Are you speaking like vehicles specifically or large agricultural equipment?
Really, anything, vehicles. I talked to a dealer yesterday, public health is looking at a heavy duty pickup.
Sure,
I talked to a huge dealer who I deal with,
right.
absolutely nothing available. And there's, the cutoff is already, you can't even order a new one, a heavier duty one.
Mhm.
The loader with half ton pickups, you cannot find a good use, we're gonna new 3/4 ton pickup.
No, you're 100% correct, and that's why our program is so beneficial. We're forecasting a year ahead. So we're factory ordering your vehicles a year in advance. So you're never in a position where you are going to a dealership lot last second with a vehicle that might be dying, and then you have nothing available, and you're forced to ride that vehicle until it drops.
They deal with the manufacturer direct.
Right.
Instead of, they're enhanced the dealer. That's looking to put us in the best
And
situation.
let's also say, because things happen, right? It's again, vehicles are unpredictable. Let's say you have a vehicle that goes down that wasn't set for replacement. You need something right away. I find vehicles for my clients, Arizona, Michigan, Florida, our outreach covers the scope of the country. So I can find you vehicles anywhere. We will find you the vehicles. Sometimes we have to be flexible with specs, maybe color if we're in a really desperate need situation. But because of our outreach is so big, we can find unique buyers and dealers to where we can always find a vehicle at some point. The goal is factory order because, as we all know, the pricing right now is the highest we've ever seen. We want to avoid going on dealership lots as much as we can. Because one, it's proactive, it's structured, getting exactly what you need. Two, you're not paying that markup.
Connor, I have a couple more questions. I think. Does Enterprise handle lease programs for law enforcement vehicles as well?
Oh, absolutely. Most of our government clients end up introducing their police force.
Okay. And then finally, we're in this county, we with a strong emphasis on shared services with the various towns. And that, is there a way that the towns could be included in the county leasing program? Because we buy pickup trucks and, vehicles as well, which would expand greatly our ability to save money.
No, 100%. That's a great question. So typically how we'll take our approach is we work with counties and then multiple towns within counties. If you're structured in which they're going through you for their acquisitions rather than just the town, if we get approval, we can include those. And again, I think that would be viewed as sub-customers. I would need to double check that because typically towns, villages, perfect example, Village of Watkins Glen, I started a partnership with them recently. Schuyler County was already participating in our program. They operate completely independently. They do maintenance with the county and location, and they do some shared services, but they operate completely independently. If you think it's a great idea to have the towns included, I don't see why we couldn't do that as long as the infrastructure of each can all be channeled down from the county.
I mean, just about every one of our highway superintendents is going to drive an F-250 or
Right.
F-350, or a Chevy but they're all basically the same truck.
Right. Yeah. That I mean, we can absolutely help that. It's really all of it's your choice on how you like to structure it. If you want to include those vehicles in our list and then supply those to the town, I don't see that being an issue from a budget standpoint, as long as the village or towns would need to be paying for those, I would assume, right? So those are being built out.
Yes.
Can I ask in trying to think in my head, with Supervisor Lure's comments, is there a way that if we expand the county program to the towns to show the additional savings that say the towns would realize by partnering and making our program bigger?
That would be the easiest way for me to do it, actually. So I would get a fleet list sent from the town. The tough part is for my job, I partner with entities that have 20 or more vehicles. Sure. If the towns are not operating 20 vehicles, we have a corporate structure that handles smaller fleets. But if we wanted to incorporate this all under one umbrella and maybe sub-customer, that's something I can look into. So you can all take advantage of the same program, you'll have the same you'll have me as your account executive, you'll have the same client strategy manager, you'll have the same account fleet coordinator. So the communication is simple as well.
So in line with Clerk Ketchum's comments, I think the reason you asked that is because we can receive grant funding
We could, yeah.
for the savings that occurs as a result of that shared service.
I also wanted to make sure that if the towns were able to go it alone with enterprise, that it wouldn't, if the savings were the same, then what's the point? But if the savings are greater in the county program, then that's the huge point, right? So because you guys only probably operate a half a dozen vehicles, I mean, right out of the gate, we know that it's gonna work.
I mean, outside of the big stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We
So-
have smaller, half ton, 3/4 ton.
Yeah.
1 ton
Yep.
trucks, but our biggest challenge, at least I think, speaking from my town's perspective, is availability. Because we have to order through a state bid process,
Right.
but find a dealer and the vehicle's not available. You're looking at, 18-month lead times or more just to get a truck replaced, a pickup truck.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is another area of pain point that we're dealing with municipalities across the state. That's where we come into play and we can help mitigate that.
Yeah.
Again, by being proactive, we're not putting you in a position where it's like, oh my gosh, we need to replace this now. It's about to be scrapped, right? We're making sure you're operating vehicles that only need preventative maintenance. You're not being stuck in a position where you have to immediately replace. And we're going to be looking ahead to make sure that those vehicles are landing when you need them. So you're not going to be in a reactive state. You're going to be in a proactive state at all times while driving down your costs.
If we went with this program, what happens to our existing 23 vehicles? Do we replace them as we need to, eventually? We don't replace all 23 at one time. We kind of split it out so that, we're replacing them in different intervals.
It's a great point. And then this is the structured implementation of the program. For lack of better terms, we like to use the case before we get married, we'll inch into the fleet. We'll replace vehicles that we see fit from the start. And then once you're fully enrolled in the program, then you're going to see consistent, sustainable driving down savings from operating.
This is the way they would.
But
So we just replace.
starting with those initial 12 vehicles would be our recommendation, because again, we're able to reduce your budget and still replace all 12. If you have more room in the budget, you could get potentially more aggressive if you'd like. You can tear it down. It's really your call. But you can see savings quicker by replacing more because you're capturing that equity right off the get-go.
You have access to vans and SUVs because they're transporting families with 4 or 5 kids.
Right.
You have access to them?
100%. Yes.
Okay.
Again, any vehicle with 4 wheels, 6 wheels, we can find and we can implement the program for you. Our typical, wheelhouse or niche is anything 26,000 GVW or below. But that's really where you guys all fall. We can still do medium duty vehicles. We're going to structure those differently. And typically we'll exclude from the analysis and we can still set that up for you. We can still utilize those vehicles. But because it's a diesel and you're putting a lot of aftermarket equipment, we want to depreciate that over a longer period of time. So when we sell those, you're in an equitable position. We run those numbers for you and present those as well.
These are normal. What we're asking Connor to do for us is just our normal driver vehicles.
Okay.
But to your point, absolutely. We work with a lot of Aspen Dental is a great example of that. We have their entire sales team with our vehicles. FIFCO, just to use examples of vehicles that we operate in that wheelhouse, right? Sedans, SUVs, vans. Those are ones that work extremely well in our program because they're low cost to begin with. You have a government incentive. There's no aftermarket going on them, except maybe lettering typically. And then you can turn those over and typically have a really low cost of ownership as well.
So in this initial one, like in 2022, it says 12 vehicles. So then we would surplus our vehicles and put the money in our pocket.
We will sell them for you.
You will sell them for us.
Upon initiation of the program, this analysis on this spot here is assuming we sell those vehicles for you. So I and my fleet strategy manager put values on your entire fleet. That's part of how I structured this program.
Okay.
And that's why we recommended those up front, because we chose, obviously, your older vehicles that need to be replaced quickly. After speaking with Mike and Devin, they're like, these are definitely ones we want. I also incorporated vehicles that are gonna hold a stronger amount of equity to help reduce your initial cost when you're replacing those vehicles.
Kind of piggybacking on Chairman Brick's earlier question, with the 23 in the fleet and your 20 minimum, if we don't have these budgeted for replacement for 12 of them this year, is there a minimum that we need to buy in the first year, like only 6 or 8? Is that acceptable? And then we do.
It is acceptable,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
So again, and this is ultimately your decision and whatever you have set in your budget. So I'm not, from a budget standpoint, I assume 2022 already set and budgeted for. We'll work directly off of what you have set for your budget. If it's available to share, what would your budget look like this year? What's budgeted for vehicles?
I'm not sure, and Janice is on, but I don't know if she's paying attention to the question. We can get that for you.
That's fine.
Connor.
So I can very easily adjust the plan and the introduction of the program based on exactly what you have budgeted. It's gonna absolutely include more vehicles than what you budgeted for, because you're not putting all the cash up front.
Give you
So
an example, like my department has 6 vehicles. Lately, the past few years, we budget right around that $33,000 a year. And I feel with that $33,000, we could replace all 6 vehicles.
I would be shocked if all 6 couldn't be replaced with 33,000. Yes, absolutely.
So really, we're saving money and our equipment is brand new. It puts us in, so the county, we've been able to do that, a vehicle rotation plan. That was a big thing because our equipment is older, but it's always budgeted. This is the best way, the quickest way to really upgrade our fleet for the same, if not less cost of what we're budgeting anyway.
Absolutely. And it's taking that work off of your plate. You guys are all very, very busy. You know, running this program allows us to run this program for you, and you don't have to also be running the titles, the regs, looking for the vehicles, finding a place to sell the vehicles for the best return. We're handling it all for you. We just take your input and what your goals are, and we apply our program to that.
I assume there's a contractual agreement between us. Is there a minimum number of years?
Nothing like
In
that.
case for some reason something.
No, so we earn your business on a per vehicle basis. So we have very like generic agreements that allow you to participate. You know, it's master equity lease agreement, maintenance agreements. It allows you to participate, but that's not holding you to a time frame. It's not holding you to a certain amount of vehicles. Each vehicle quote is its own individual contract. And then it's also flexible. So for example, some of the half-ton trucks for the grounds and the highway, I put those on, to maximize savings, I put those on 12-month leases because I think that will ultimately bring the most savings to the county. Let's say the market changes, we will recommend you hold those vehicles, or let's say we had one on a 5-year lease. It makes more sense to, you know, for lack of a better term, short cycle that or replace it sooner. That flexibility is there. You know, we're going to run the data, whatever your reduced book value is, whatever we're depreciating that vehicle is. We're going to show you the numbers, and then you make a decision. But there's a lot of flexibility with the program too. So you're not just held to these lease structures. You know, we're going to use the industry as well.
Yeah, so every time we sign a lease, that's our contract. Each individual vehicle.
But we can pull out at any point.
Yeah.
This can hold us at.
Right.
You can
Hey,
just pay.
Carol.
You can buy the vehicle back out. Yeah, there's-
Yeah, that's Janice.
Oh, hey Cheryl, I just looked quickly. I'm sorry, I did catch up with you guys. The total for highway and buildings and grounds budgeted is 117,000. And for the whole county, including $280,000 in police cars is, we revised it to 500,000. So you're talking 280,000 of that 500 is police cars. And of course, some of that has been, we only adopted 350,000 because we did roll some money from 2021 because they weren't able to get a vehicle. You know, you guys have approved some of that throughout since the beginning of the year. So that's where we are for that. Just to throw some numbers out there.
Go ahead, Connor.
Oh, sorry. Was that just the upfront purchase budget? So at your acquisition budget?
That is,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
But we don't budget that every year, just so you know.
We will adjust to your budget. That's not a problem.
Janice, do you know with the highway, did that dollar amount include heavy equipment as well? Or was that basically?
I believe that was just the motor vehicles, right, Devin?
I think so, yeah, because we budgeted for, I think a new F-350 this year.
Thing of it is, when we get rid of a vehicle, we usually don't get a lot out of it. You know, we get $1,200 or something like that, you know, and it's pretty well used up by the time we get done with it.
So that's a good point, Chairman, because, you know, the way we typically run things is that we run them into the ground. And then we have to figure out, you know, how to get rid of them. The other part of that is that along that path, Devin has to make decisions about whether or not to fix something or, you know, ultimately replace it at the end of its life. Under this program, it would seem to me that our vehicles would have a higher residual value.
Significantly higher, yeah.
Significantly higher residual value. And it would remove a lot of the administrative burden from the department heads to have to figure out, okay, do I need a budget for a car, you know, a vehicle or so on, because it's part of a structured program.
It's not on here.
And that's the goal. Because again, this is why it works so well with our municipal partners, is because you guys all buy so well. Government entities can purchase so well, operating that vehicle over a short life cycle and getting a great return. Also, your mileage patterns are typically low because you're, you know, contained in one area. You're not traveling all over the state. So low mileage, fewer vehicles is always going to yield a higher return.
Right.
The flexibility of the program to make sure we're following the market and knowing exactly what we're going to get is what we're going to pass on to the county.
I mean, most of us, you know, at the end of the vehicle's life, take our chances on auctions international, you know, take what we can get.
It's like a total water here.
Well, and that's where we've been lazy at it, and not paying attention and trying to get the best value out of our vehicles.
Right.
And my question is, we're buying at state bids and whatnot. How are you buying vehicles as cheap as we are and managing it for us? It doesn't make sense. You don't get.
Absolutely. So
You don't get a steep bid like we do.
Well, we're the largest buyer of vehicles in North America. So we have our own programs and that gives us a ton of buying power. We don't have the government entity incentives, but we pass those through. So to be very transparent on where we make our money, we have a 0.1% management fee. So it's 0.1% of the capitalized price of the vehicle. That is, and then there's interest involved in the structure of the lease. Those are the 2 points of profit. We're our own bank at UFM Trust. So we go off of the 3-year T-bill, typically around 300 basis points, but it's structured directly off of the source well bid. So all of the government entities are going to be having the same price structure there. But for as far as additional fees, you know, our goal is if we're not saving money, then why would you partner with us, right? So there's obviously efficiencies that go along with that you can benefit from, but our goal is to save you money. And that's really how we structure this. But those are the two areas in which we make our money. Also, on a side note, the analysis I structured was based off of a $71,000 purchasing budget with $117,000. That gives you, you know, access with the budget. You can choose to do with what you want, or you can replace even more vehicles. Just to give you an idea. So the initial savings was based off of 71,000, 117 frees up more room for potential more replacements.
I would go back with because the only reason why it's 117 is because we rolled money from 2021 into 2022.
Okay.
So I would go back, I would move back to what was adopted.
Okay.
Well, I think that's something we can look at, and sure we want Janice to dig into some of these figures. She doesn't see what we see in front of us here.
No, I already promised her a packet. I'm thinking I'm gonna make sure that.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
guys, this is completely up to you guys. Again, we did this back 10 years ago. I think that the difference is, you guys, is that they're gonna take care of everything. We're not gonna have to do it. So do we pay for that convenience? That's basically, right now we have control to say you're not getting a truck this year, and we could still tell them that, but then basically the way I understand it is they are managing the fleet. That's what's happening. They're managing the fleet, so we have the best resale value, so we don't spend more on expenses repairing the vehicles. Basically, we're paying them to manage our fleet.
We're saving administrative money.
Janice.
Yeah, I mean, so that's basically your, I mean, that is something that you guys need to make that decision.
In the county? Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
My understanding is also, and I just want to clarify and make sure that this is correct, because I was, I'm obviously doing 100 other things. The departments that do have grants that have to buy a vehicle and not lease a vehicle because of whatever structure, because a grant they might have for 1 year and not 5 years. They might not have a grant that they can buy something and spread it out over a 5-year period because they have to spend it in year X. Or they only have the grant for 1.5 years, they have to expend the money. So in that instance, how does that happen? Can we buy that right out from you?
We can still do it through enterprise, Janice.
Right. I wanted to make sure that that was clear as well. So we would just have to tell you that before we're looking for the vehicle?
Yep.
That is fine as well. And we have different structures. So we also partner with Wegmans, and there's different structures that we do with larger companies that prefer, rather than doing a lease structure for certain vehicles or certain criteria, in which you can put 99% up front if you need to use that budget, but you don't need additional vehicles. We can structure payments differently on different leases. There's a lot of flexibility on how you guys can maximize your budget, utilize the budget, and how you see fit. And just to be clear, the analysis has our profit baked into that. So this is all inclusive, the savings included, that has our management fee, that has the interest included in all this in the lease structures. So this is not, without what goes into, hiring us as a fleet manager.
But to be clear, all of the grants, I mean, it just depends on if they're long-term grants or if they're.
Oh, yeah, they're all
one-time.
different.
Yeah.
They're all different. Like
Yeah.
DSS, you're probably gonna be fine if we wanted to maybe include them. Does it matter if we do it sooner or later? I mean, I
No.
guess basically, this, I don't need to look at any more numbers. I mean, this has always been an issue where it's either we manage the fleet like we've been doing, or we pay someone to manage the fleet. And that is a decision you guys can make. As an employee, yeah, I'd love that. I would love if you guys could manage the fleet. If we, one more thing off our responsibility list is great. That's completely up to the board, not, numbers. I mean, you're looking at them. And if there's always flexibility, say we have a rough year and we say, listen, and we're not going to be able to meet that number. We don't have that much to work with in 2024. As long as they can manage that and still effectively manage the fleet. I mean, basically we do the same thing. It's just not as organized. It's not as easy, and we all are putting in extra work to do it. So yeah, I would love that as an employee. I wouldn't have to go out to bid. I wouldn't have to do all this stuff. I wouldn't have to, it's a lot of work.
There are exceptions, though, I would think. I was just talking to my colleague here from Social Services. Their fleet is only 2 years. Average life is about 2017, but they also receive grant funding from the
What I'm
state.
saying is their grant funding isn't like a per grant. It's not like a Homeland Security grant. They would buy the vehicle. It goes into they're kind of like public health. How you get a big block grant,
Right,
just like
right.
mental health, just like, public health has a big block grant that they could claim their vehicles to if they're not claimed to an individual grant like a TUPA or water. So that's all I was saying about DSS is they don't typically have grants where they specifically identify X amount of money to purchase a vehicle out of a specific grant. It's out of their block grant from the state. Is all I was saying about DSS. So a leasing situation would work great for them.
The resale value where it is now, it might not be a bad idea. Not a mold, but
Turn those over.
turn those over better
But-
shape reason.
But like I said, DSS budgets two cars a year. I mean, so we're already kind of doing it and they rotate them out. Same thing with the sheriff. He budgets, $280,000 a year. Basically, we're just doing the work and we're managing our fleet in a ad hoc way. It's just all these little one-offs where, obviously public health is going to replace their oldest car. And they're buying it when their money comes up for a grant. So they probably will most likely keep doing that because they'll say every so many years, we get this much money for a grant for vehicles. So like I said, it's a lot of administrative work. We're doing it now. Everybody's working on it to do it. And we're budgeting that way. I know Don Roberts budgets that way. So we're already doing it. Our challenges as a department and Devin or any other department head who's there or whatever can chime in. It's getting the vehicles because we don't have the buying power that this company has, or the outreaching of, we just don't have that ability that they have. We also don't manage the fleet in a way that they can with statistics and, whatever this app you were talking about. I'm sorry, I was kind of doing something else, but how does the information for the vehicle, if we're still maintaining it here, each vehicle still has to be recorded, something has to be recorded on the vehicle electronically for it to work. So right now we're not doing that. So now that's an added burden to somebody. Yes, Devin? If we want this great data, because we don't do that now, it's all written on paper and it's not tracked by vehicle. So now that is something that it doesn't magically happen, you guys. I mean, someone has to put that information into the system, whatever system that is. And right now that doesn't happen, correct?
To give you some information on that as well. So again, I'm currently in the process of doing this with the town of Webster. It's called Auto Integrate. That is the infrastructure. That's the website that we have. We can facilitate that for you. Your fleet list is in our database. You have access to all of that information. It spills right through. So I would sit on a conference call with Devin, with Mike, whatever department heads need to be sitting on there. Whoever's going to be inputting the data, the vehicles are there. So we can structure it on a vehicle number that you guys have already to make the process simple. And then it's just, instead of writing on a piece of paper exactly what you'd be doing, you're just plugging it into the system. You're not having file cabinets full of your data capture and what your POs and everything and what you're paying your employees. It's all right there.
Is it possible to generate an invoice from that particular thing to invoice each department?
Absolutely.
So
Janice,
right now it's just manually done and it shouldn't be, but like I said,
That's
someone has
supposed
to
to
do
be,
that.
someone is supposed to be entering that, but our mechanic was just off for a while, so it was just getting recorded on paper. But someone is supposed to be doing that on a daily basis anyways.
But that would save some time if it was actually put in originally and then a bill is printed off that way at the end of the month for each vehicle, because then you're not, because I know someone else has to put it in and total it up and make a bill and send it to somebody else. And so one or the other, I mean, administratively, but like I said, it doesn't magically happen. Someone has to do that. So that would be on Devin if we were going to this fleet. But again, this is a completely, it's one half, whatever you guys want to do. The numbers are the numbers. It's just.
Yes, one other point too, from an invoice standpoint, we would review that with you monthly. So that's something you can download at any point. You obviously will have all access to that website. So all the data is flowing through. It's a click of a button and it'll produce the invoice for you. We'll review it with you on the 5th of the month. Payments are due on the 20th. So we have a couple of weeks in which we can sit down, discuss that. If there's changes, we adjust. So you have that forecasted, and then you have that, proactively reviewing. So we make sure everything is nailed down each month. But you can look at it at any point.
And here's a question. We start our budget process in July or August. So if this were happening for 2023, when would when would that assessment take place and plan take? I'm assuming you do it like 3 years in advance and have an idea. I think I've seen those reports before, but I would have a number, we'd have a number to put in the system by that time, yes, for the next year?
So we will sit down and fleet plan with you. If we're talking July and August, when you start discussing for the following year, we will sit down with you and forecast that. I mean, the goal would be to be soon. So with your 2022 budget accepted, you have a lot of room in which we can initiate the replacements right away. But coming into this following model year, the 2023s are upon us. So we would want to take a look at what you're looking at from a budget standpoint, and we can facilitate the continued implementation based on what your needs are.
Janice, and I think they were looking right now because all of this analytic work has been done for buildings and grounds and highway. So, I mean, these guys would be ready to maybe test the waters a little bit. For the
Right,
balance
I
of
mean, that's what I was
22.
saying. We're not saving any additional money by throwing on additional fleet right now. Well, that's not what I mean to say, not from you guys. I mean, if we added more, we're not saving any more because we're adding more fleet. I get value and we're gonna save more with volume,
Yeah,
but
I think we're all kind of looking at each other in the room, Janice, but just to be clear, they're not looking to add any additional vehicles to the.
Oh, no,
fleet.
I
They're-
understand.
They're looking at replacing,
Right.
so, you
Yep,
know,
I
what they've
understand.
got for a budget for this year, even if it's not the 117, it's back to the 71.
I think what Janice is saying is we're not gonna save the giant balloon right
For-
away.
no,
Yes,
right.
that's exactly what I'm
Oh,
saying.
yeah,
So,
no,
so
not-
to just start with those two departments. and then
Exactly.
To go and do DSS.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what I was
exactly.
saying. Thank you.
Okay,
That's what.
you can thank Mike for that.
Thank you, Mike. We're thinking the same. Hello,
Well, sure, like
Gary.
I said, you know, we're gonna dip our toe in the water here first, you know, we're not gonna dive right in, you know.
And we've done that with many occasions, right? There's certain departments that that need that value right up front. You know, that's something that they need more help with a lower budget, or they have more vehicles to replace. As you see benefits of the program, that's something we can introduce as we go.
And just to reiterate too, I heard you say that you do work through Sourcewell and you piggyback off of other counties who have.
They piggyback off of Sourcewell. So
Okay.
Sourcewell is the basis in which we've structured. So we were awarded best value in fleet management
Yep.
through Sourcewell. So
Okay,
that makes the piggyback RFP process
so
incredibly
all of
simple.
our procurement issues are being addressed.
Are handled
Mhm.
right there.
Yep.
So it's all under one umbrella. It makes the process very simple. You have, you know, a set infrastructure as far as pricing. So that's not something you have to go negotiating. It's all our entities have earned that
Yep.
RFP through Sourcewell.
I saw all that in your
Great.
paperwork. I just wanted
No,
to
of course.
hear it out loud one more time to make sure that
Absolutely.
everybody was.
So as far as maintenance, basic maintenance, like changing the oil and that kind of stuff, we do that.
It would remain the same.
Everything you
Yep.
say,
Yes.
but, you know, but if you're doing it every 2, 3 years, breaks and things like that, shop probably shouldn't be an issue on our part.
You're going to look at a significant reduction in maintenance costs because you're not going to be billing out larger repairs. You're only going to be looking at very simple, you know, preventative maintenance.
One of the things that was brought up by the previous highway superintendent is we buy kind of the same vehicles because we can have the same parts here to fix those vehicles, you know, and then, you know, Office for the Aging had to have a Toyota 4-wheel drive van, you know, and we didn't have any parts for the Toyota, you know. So that would eliminate that kind of
The
thing.
majority of our government
Yeah.
entities operate the big three, right? We're looking at Stellantis or FCA, Ram, Dodge, Chrysler, Chevy or GM, and then Ford. Right now, based on what we're looking at from order banks, and, you know, I'm working through government incentives to make sure, you know, I've already started looking at forecasting what your replacements are, Devin and Mike. But, you know, I'm gonna run side-by-side comparisons, give them the data. Okay, this 3/4 ton truck, you're getting a better incentive from GM, but we could use this and potentially save more money. If they're really into Fords, we can always do that. There's just a longer wait time. Ford had a lot of cancellations this past year. So, and they're way farther back as far as an ordering standpoint. Vehicles lead times are anywhere from 20 to 24 weeks. Ford is around 30. But with GM being very close here in May, you know, we can get orders in right then. Those vehicles are going to turn around and show up around November. So it'll still be before the following year, but at least you have those vehicles on the way. And I know that you have ones you need to replace now, but that would be our recommendation to get started and get those orders out for at least those initial 12. And then we can obviously implement as we see fit moving on.
I think 10 years ago through Jim, vehicle parts were more standard amongst different vehicles.
Very true.
I don't think that's the way anymore. Every year or two, vehicles are, the body style changing, the motor changing, things are changing. It's just not that standard carry forwards. It's not like you're interchanging parts anymore.
100%, and with technology changes too. Coupled with that.
Mike, how long you been looking for a van?
Well, it took since last July. We finally landed a van. Actually, we brought up this committee cycle, but it's taken forever to find something. And the van is still waiting in Michigan to load on a rail car to come this way because they're backed right up. A pickup truck though, I've been looking for as well. And I'm like we're saying, we're not able to place an order until May, June, or July. And then we, as the government agency, I guarantee they're not building those work trucks right away. They're building the Denali's and they're building these carry style vehicles.
Margins. And to your point, Mike, if you have vehicles that you need pronto, we can look for vehicles off a lot for immediate need. Again, we want to factor, but to your point, I'm looking all over the country for it, rather than, in the county.
I'm this close to asking to purchase used because a 2-year-old vehicle is still better than my 8-year-old vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a matter of what's available right now.
And, given that this is something that you would like to move forward with, that's something we can facilitate. I know you're in South Bend, but I'm sure that we can help with immediate need. Sure, much quicker as well.
We already had that question yesterday in public health. Somebody asked if it was possible to.
I could get to work today for you.
So, and I know I'm speaking with Carol Nevis, who handles all of our state purchasing through OGS for the government agencies in the state. And speaking with her, because we put a truck out to bid 3 times and have had 0 results. She said she's going to be shocked if we get anybody to bid on these in our state in the next year because there's just no availability for it.
For the government sector.
For the government sector. With the way that we have to put these vehicles out to bid using the state contract, it's almost impossible. We cannot get vehicles here.
And we will provide that foresight for you too. So a great example, RAM did not allocate certain vehicles to government entities at all because they can sell them retail for a higher profit margin, right? So there's vehicles that a lot of our government entities prefer, and I will have the insight to be able to provide them for you up front, so we know exactly what we're looking for, where you're gonna get your best buy, and then obviously lead times. Lead times we can't control, unfortunately. We have meetings with GM, Ford, Stellantis quite frequently. We can't change the fact that they're taking a long time, but what we can do is locate them and facilitate that process.
I think if we wind up going with this whole process and giving the sourcing difficulties, we need to start looking at getting orders in for the vehicles for next year. That we know that, the funding is secure for, or relatively secure. Because if we wind up having to cancel the order, we're gonna find somebody else who can take us.
Well, that's it. And that's a very, very good point. So what we're doing too is if anything, we're telling government entities specifically, because there's an allocation process, over order.
Yeah.
We don't typically always do that when we had a normal industry, but if anything, over order. If for some reason that's not fitting in the budget or it's something you want to take, we will have clients that will take that vehicle to studies. So if anything, being proactive, 2022 will help you get your orders in for the 2023 model year replacement, but it might make sense to look at 2023 as soon as we can to make sure we can get those orders in as well. They can be following suit and coming in.
And in a case like that, there's no penalty to account if we over ordered and.
It's typically, like I said, that's not something we do. We don't recommend it. It's because of what's going on in the industry now. We're trying to be as flexible as possible. We want to make, because the worst thing that happens is you have 6 vehicles on order. All of a sudden we get an update, boom, Ford or GM or someone cancels the orders. Now we got to go to square one and find some vehicles for you. Getting them in early is key. So I speak with our representatives directly at the manufacturer. I know we need 6 3/4-ton trucks. I start the allocation process now. I'm already doing that with my clients where I'm getting in touch and letting them know, hey, I overestimate it. I'll tell them, hey, if they need 12, I'll tell them they need 20. I start that process, start nudging our manufacturers saying, hey, look over here, we need these vehicles. That's going to get through at the front of the order banks. That's going to allow us to have a much higher chance of making sure they land on time and don't get canceled.
Well, we've had quite a lot of discussion on this. Is there an appetite to move forward with this for buildings and grounds? I would entertain a motion to do that if so.
No, I'm not. I don't.
I think we got,
I know what my monthly-
I think there's gotta be some, look at what the actual numbers are, as opposed to just saying, no offense, but
They're gonna have
I'm
to-
telling us we're gonna be saving money.
They're gonna have to be bringing it back too. I mean,
Right.
when they get leases that they're ready to execute, but they can't do, he can't even start his process if we don't say, yeah, go ahead and get something started. They'll have to bring the leases back for approval because they're contracts that you'll have to approve. There's really no way to do it until we engage in. But you're not buying a vehicle, so right out of the gate, there's.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Did you say that the more vehicles we rent in the program, the better our rate is, or is you just
It's
have to have
typically
20 and that's it? The rate-
20 for government city, your pricing structure is set from Sourcewell. So that pricing structure is set, but what we typically see is the more vehicles included in the program, you're gonna see
So
a
it
higher
doesn't
overall
matter if we have
savings.
20 or 40, the percentage.
Your actual pricing structure, yeah, that was done through that RFP, so your pricing would be the same.
Another question, this resale value that you have on here,
Correct.
is that based on the current market?
That's a great question. So we tier them based on our replacement. So I have current values, I have 12-month values, and then I tier the values on percentages of the data that we capture from the vehicles we sell based on the replacement year of those vehicles. So
Right now, the market is,
the
you know,
one,
the resale market is way above what it's going to
100%.
stay at over the long run.
and again, these are extremely conservative. Like I said before, the last thing we want to do is come up here, tell you we're gonna sell these for this price. We're gonna save you this amount of money. And then year one, you're like, what the heck happened? You know, we are very, very conservative with our numbers. That's a part of what we do, right? We want to undershoot and then exceed expectations.
And if we were to sit with you, I mean, this is great, but I'm the numbers person. I want to know where these numbers come from.
And that would be, again, I think it's
I
point
want
to
more itemized.
what you were saying as well, sir. And that's what so I'll
Let's
create
see some
them.
numbers before we just jump off the cliff here. We did it with the Danforth and we got stuck pretty bad.
There is just from an approval process, even with contracts, being approved and signed, just so you are aware, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't partner until you sign a vehicle quote. So you can approve the process, you can even sign all the agreements. You do not partner or have a full commitment until you sign a vehicle quote. So I will create menu pricing. I'll let you know exactly what we're looking at, because pricing is coming out now for the 2023 very shortly. It's not even processed yet. So what I did is inflated 2022 numbers and so forth for these vehicles. You know, again, everything has been very conservative. You know, I'll walk through the aftermarket needed with Mike and Devin. You know, I'll have the exact quotes build out, so you know exactly what that lease price is. I'll have menu pricing, so you know exactly what the upfront cost is. And I can tier it to make sure you're not going to be over or less. So all the data will be there, and we will make sure it fits to whatever your budget is set for. And then the implementation process carries on as we need to go. But I can't do anything to help without any type of approval and then agreements, so I can create the quotes and get rolling for you. So that would be entirely up to you guys.
And did you also say that you could find us a vehicle, we could purchase it outright versus leasing over a
It's a different pricing structure where you can put like 99% down for the holding title, so it's still has to technically be leased, but it's almost the exact same process. So we can be flexible in how to structure that.
I just have a problem paying interest. That's like money out the door to me, so.
We do capture that back with obviously the resale and the bill from, I understand, and that's been usually hesitation with government entities. You're not paying, you pay cash up front, but the way we structure these leases with the flexibility, with the return. So we do 300 basis points off of the 3-year T-bill. But I think it changes on a per month basis. So when as the 3-year T-bill does.
Okay, so what's the current interest rate that you're?
Right now, based on, and there's a 0.5 or 1 basis point reduction, I think it's 4.61, but that is also relative on obviously the 3-year T-bill. So that will change as we order. And that, I don't want to be quoted there. I just don't want to give you false information. I believe that was where the quote was, and obviously interest is going up with inflation. That also goes down. So it's like a loan.
17 is the oldest. And when are those slated to?
who we're replacing in 2004. Yeah, we should have one that not, and actually this year.
So you're looking at 5-year term or something.
Unless the mileage isn't up there.
Sure.
We usually want a vehicle until it's got at least 90,000.
Yeah. But
And right now, we're not even close to that anyway.
I was gonna say, but you're not seeing the return.
But
of that.
the last 2 years, there also hasn't been the usage
Sure.
because we haven't gone, people haven't gone to training, they haven't done a lot of home visits because we can't have a lot of face to face. Which that caused more in repair costs because the vehicle sat there and on a vehicle that's like 2 years old, we had to replace all the brakes on it because it sat.
Situations like that too, where
But that was something because of not being used.
So, you know, in the midst of COVID, we had a lot of government entities where vehicles are grounded. And they had budget issues where they needed extra capital. We just sold some of the vehicles, for them, not just extra capital. And we'll take a look at vehicles that maybe you would have replaced. Placing those can free up cash flow immediately. So those are all options. Our team will take a look at every vehicle every year to provide that data for you.
So I guess what we're looking at is the motion to go ahead and have Connor provide us with the numbers on a potential lease. We're not committing to it yet, but he's got to have that in order to move forward. I have a motion by Supervisor Davis. Is there any further discussion?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, could you explain the motion to me?
Kind of going to provide us with the actual numbers to do a lease, but we're not committed to it yet. But he's got to have that permission to go ahead and create the.
And that would be focused on
For buildings and ground.
building and ground. and highway.
Yeah, in highway. Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter.
We're not ordering any vehicles, we're not doing anything.
Right, it's just permission to move forward with the process. And then if they find vehicles, you know, you guys do this. I mean, you've seen leases come before you. There's another step.
It's like approving or go out to bid.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
We're
right.
not awarded to bid, but we're approving to go out.
That's right.
Correct. Good in that.
Yeah. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your presentation
Thank you all
this
for your
morning.
time. I
and,
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Tom.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
We'll let Mike and Devin be the contact.
Oh, Connor, do you have 2 more of these?
Absolutely. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, we'll move on with our agenda.
Absolutely. And that's part of what we do for you.
First part of it.
As long as you're included.
Will be,
We just gotta wait till they calm down because
Right. And that's part of the approval.
It interferes.
try to move along.
I know.
I appreciate the
Or you
time.
made a
Do you need
decision,
any
but-
sort of paperwork or anything now, or do you
I
have
sent
enough?
you the agreements a while ago. If you
Yeah.
have those, that'd be great to share. So you guys
Yeah.
can walk through, you know, obviously the language there. If that's something that, and then once
I will.
pricing is out.
I'll
I can
send, I'll send
provide
it
the
to Cheryl.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And have mine.
I just want to send one off to our budget officer and one off to public
I
health
scribbled
because
all
our,
over mine.
I didn't write on mine,
Oh,
so.
okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. Ted.
No, it's all right. You sent it to me electronically.
Okay, great.
Change the
Also, I did include, I'm sure it's on the back, 2 references from Erie County.
Oh, yeah.
Genesee, I would greatly
Yep.
recommend giving them a call. I think they can speak on it.
Tim Hens for Genesee County said it's very, very easy process.
I think they can speak to, especially Erie County, we can speak to very recent savings and.
I think we all know people in those counties,
Oh, I'm
so,
sure,
yeah.
I'm sure you
it'll
do.
be Easy,
I'm
yeah.
sure you do. Well, thank you all again. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely, Devin. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
They're not supposed to be in.
Absolutely. In touch. Get those books in for you. All right, sir. Thank you. Take care.
Okay, we'll move forward to our agenda. Number 2 is one position of heavy equipment operator to replace John Nelson, who resigned.
That's just
How many
back on.
vacancies does that give you now, Devin?
Those are the last 2, I think.
Okay. I think we could do 2 and 3 together. The other is a bridge construction mechanic. Motion by Supervisor Kale. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Devin, want to go through your March work update?
Yeah, sure. Shelkoff Road, there hasn't been a ton of activity there. They're kind of waiting till the weather breaks. They got to the bridge and they started cleaning it up. They power washed it. So it looks pretty good right now. The only thing they have left to do is to stain it, guide rail and paving it.
If they got a finished date, do they have to be done by?
They committed to the end of June.
Oh,
Hopefully before.
I don't think the roof on yet.
The metal room. Yeah.
Yes, and the metal roof, that's right.
Ellen asked about, we've approved, they have a plaque dedicates the bridge in name of a veteran.
Yeah.
You know, about placing the plaque so that who doesn't take it. You know? So,
Yeah.
We have signs made up for that to put on the bridge. It's named. So those are ready to go. So as soon as the bridge is stained, we'll put them up. Like Fair, the structure is set in place. The back walls are poured. The the deck panels are put in place. So now the only thing left to do there again is just paint touch up and paving for the most part. There's some groundwork that they're doing now, but not much.
Will there be blacktop on the bridge or will it be plank?
No planks, wooden planks. They're blacktopping on the fairground side.
As much as they can. Put some flags out there, Mike, you know.
Extended a little bit.
Yeah.
Exchange Street in Attica, that is actually going to be going out to bid here very shortly. The bid documents are prepared and ready to go. We're waiting for New York State DOT sign off on those. And once they sign off, which should be any day now, they'll be going to bid. So that's where we're at with that. Oweka Road, which is the new one. The scoping is in process now. We had a preliminary meeting with the engineering firm Urban Anthony. So they're sending me some preliminary engineering estimates right now. So we're kind of just in the scoping process.
So is that gonna be moved out to 23 then for the work is done?
Construction is in 2023. Yep. Perry 9, pending the approval of design funds, once that's approved, we'll begin the design work. A lot of the preliminary stuff is already done, but I mean, obviously they have to finish up the final designs. One of the things that we talked about with DOT, since this project, Bridge New York projects are capped at $1 million, we discussed potentially supplying the boxes for this project to kind of keep it at $1 million cap. So they don't have an issue with that. We just got just more paperwork, but I think it's less of a headache to do that than go over budget. So. Croats Road. I actually think now, since this was done, I think we're pretty much set to go. We're still waiting on a contract, but all the permits, all the permitting, everything is done. They have the extra funding, apparently, is what I've been
This is
told.
for the Crow Creek thing?
Yeah.
There wasn't Crows Road that had the wetland yesterday?
Where was he from?
That was in Orangeville.
Where was it?
Buffalo Road?
It's close.
I can't remember because we had got some information from the EC about the wetlands up there. Somebody wanted to put a culvert in to get the four-wheelers across.
Oh.
That is a designated.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, it wasn't Croach Road.
Wasn't Crows Road?
No, it was Orangeville, right? It was
Orangeville.
Orangeville, but I don't know, I don't remember the road.
We did get up there because of the migratory bats in the area. We had to take down some trees before the end of March. So we got up there and took trees down. Other than that, that's the only work that we've done so far. Interacted with the landowners. Other than
The
that,
bats were in the attic, not the trees.
Yeah. surprisingly enough, we didn't see any bats while we were there, but. Accident locations project, we had a kickoff meeting on 3/16. So right now we're kind of we're examining potential places to initiate these engineering studies to be done. So we're looking at sections of roads with, obviously high accident rates, as well as intersections. So that work is ongoing right now. And then we have our, just our typical work done. We're done, dispatch is done, obviously, so we're back to full forces now. They're out there sweeping roads and intersections and stuff now. Bridge washing will be happening here shortly. Right of way, we're picking up our just garbage and stuff on right of way. We are taking care of non-structural issues at the state. State sends us a report of non-structural issues with bridges and culverts. So we have been taking care of those as well. Our mowing, roadside mowing is almost done. I think it might actually be done now. I think Warsaw should be done or close to being done. Middlebury, I think, is next. Other than that, I think we're all done with that for the year. Other than that, it's what I got.
Last year, I know Todd initiated, he did some spraying done along guardrails and things on that order, and he hadn't been doing it that way. I don't know how that worked. That seemed to work, or?
We just talked about
We did
that.
some last year, didn't we?
Yeah,
To
we
some of
did
the
some last
bridges,
year.
around the bridges.
Yeah.
Spray.
Did we, Katie, we just talked about that, didn't we? A little bit.
Yeah, there is $7,000 in the budget for that. It's up to.
Did you hire Jason Smith?
Greenwood,
Yeah,
yeah.
he went around and I think he did some, right, for the county. I would like to see it done around the bridges, because at some of the intersections, like the end of my road at Hardee's and Stafford, I would go down every year and I would knock it down, because you get there and you cannot see towards 39.
Yeah.
So every year I would go down and have, because you guys didn't do it anymore. So I would like to see, intersections like that where there's a bridge, have it knocked down, either somebody with a weed whacker or.
We can certainly do that.
Jason Smith within our department for various
Okay, maybe
buildings.
that's what I was thinking.
We used to, just walk around with Roundup. Can't do that
You
anymore.
can't use Roundup
No,
anymore,
You
no.
just can't use anything
No.
without a license anymore.
Yeah,
And, but Jason Smith actually lost his contract
Did
this
he?
year to True Green out of Rochester. So we're gonna be in contract with True Green. I'll bring that up for my committee, but it'd be somebody to reach out to who was very, very competitive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I can certainly reach out. We can initiate that for sure.
Okay. Anything else for Devin on the update? Move on to Katie's update on the KIP program.
Oh, one more thing, another thing, East Lake Road, that was fully approved by GTC board to move the funding for engineering up to this year. So that's another thing we'll get working on as well. GTC had funds available. They approached me and asked if we'd be interested. I said, yeah, of course. So we'll get that going.
Engineering, you said?
Engineering, yeah.
I just have one thing on the first quarter tip project report, and it was a claim for Showcroft Bridge. Still waiting on payments, but it was claimed back on February 18th, and federal portion was 588,000. State Giuseppe portion was 110,000.
We will be having more payments coming through for Showcroft too. I know with Elsie Whitford was pretty upset that they haven't gotten paid in a while, but they haven't completed anything really. So they've done a lot of work, but there's things you need to complete before you get paid.
Yeah.
So we'll have some.
Kind of a punch list kind of thing, yeah. Okay, move on to number 6, dispose of fixed assets, 2006 5 skid steer.
We have order in through state contract on a new one. So this is just getting rid of the old one.
What's availability of that?
Not great.
Yeah.
I think we'll get it this year, I think, but it's just,
You're gonna keep this one to get the other one?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Okay. Right, motion by Supervisor Davis. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we have a bid awards for the highway annual bids, and we have no ties. Jerry's all disappointed he doesn't get to flip the coin.
First time.
I know.
20 years. Yeah. That's sad.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Will you provide those to us, Devin?
I can email it. We can email it to you
Yeah,
guys.
we'd
I
like
think
to have that.
Yeah, it's also attached.
It is
on the-
attached.
On the
Yep.
agenda.
But I can't get to it.
Oh,
Well, then I can get it off.
I'll email it to you. I gotta email it to your highway superintendents anyway, so I'll just email it to everybody.
it's on the website too. You can pull it up. It's on the agenda.
Okay, number 8 is.
Oh, nope, we still have to award them.
Oh, we have to award. We have a motion to accept those highway bids.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Supervisor Grant. For the discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, awards are carried. On to number 8, which is overnight travel for Pete Myers, attend highway school at Ithaca, that's in June.
Just a learning opportunity, networking opportunity for Pete.
Motion by Supervisor Kale. For the discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Number 9 is permission for Marco Repair and Equipment Sales to use the Highway Department for CDL inspections in April. This is kind of co-sponsored by Senator Gallivan and it's been advertised, so I suppose we got to approve it. Did you bring your trucks in here and, you know? Safety. Yeah.
They could do it right out here in the park.
Yeah. Motion by Supervisor Davis. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next is professional service contract with LaBelle Associates for area number 9, Silver Lake Road, over the Silver Lake Outlet culvert replacement. Design
I want to
right
point
away.
something out. Congratulations, Katie. Nice job. This is Munis, you guys.
Oh,
Entered in Munis, contract cover page out of Munis.
So tiny though.
It is tiny, but
It is. I'm like,
there's contract numbers. As painful as Munis has been, this is starting to be a beautiful thing. Getting there.
hey, continue. This is the bridge over the Silver Lake Outlet. We received the Bridge New York grant for this up to $1 million, I believe it was. And Devin just mentioned about they're going to make the culvert boxes here for that, to save on the cost. And this is $143,000 for the engineering with Labella.
Is that the Walker Street Bridge or is this a different? color?
No, this is one right by the Sportsman's Club,
What's that?
by the Sportsman's Club there.
Okay.
Yeah. The outlet, yeah. The motion by Supervisor Lure. Any further discussion? The engineers this year, the culvert replacement will be probably next year in 23.
Yeah, yes.
Then, because when you're paving a whack up, then you can move over and pave that too.
We'll see.
Vote. I don't think so. I think I heard him like get right up to the cliff's edge and then stop.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I do that town all the time. Everybody agrees, we move on to something.
I looked at Ellen and she looked at me and I'm thinking, no, I don't think we heard that, did we?
Okay, the second is another professional service contract with Labella for the Shokoff Road Bridge rehabilitation. Is this an additional or, I mean, we must have done something like this before.
yeah, it is an additional.
Additional,
Cost,
Uh,
but luckily we still had that money through the state contract to be able to pay them this.
Okay. It's for $103,800 effective January 21 through the completion of the project. Okay, motion by Supervisor Grant. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Number 12 is another professional service contract. Sign the Bridge New York grant with New York State DOT for the bridge over the Silver Lake outlet. That's $1 million. Motion by Supervisor Lohr. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Number 13 is an FYI.
These are two contracts that we will be using on the Crow Creek project in Orangeville, ultimately paid by Buffalo Niagara Waterkeepers. The Wayne Enterprises, this is a sort of pipe isn't typical. So when we put it together, this will be a technician there to just guide us as you put it together, because we don't want to do it wrong. So I think they have it. I think there's still paperwork that needs to be done, but I think it was agreed to.
Okay. I think we agreed there last month, it was like 140,000. That's all we were going to spend on it. County Highway will do the work. It's like Alan Fagan told us, he said it's kind of overkill. He says it was like a small Quonset building they're putting in there for a culvert.
Not sure what kind of aquatic species they think are coming through there, but nothing that big.
Okay, anything else for Devin? Okay. All right, move on to buildings and grounds, Mike and Kristen.
Come up here to the hot seat. Yeah, Mike. It's warm.
It's all out here.
Morning, everybody. Terry.
Morning. Okay, number one is to amend the resolution with Nomad. Mike called me on this, and because of the price of gas, they wanted to increase their amount of their contract, and Mike said they did have money in the budget to do this.
So what happened was late in the fall, we put the mowing contract out to bid to try to be proactive going into this spring. Well, since then, fuel prices have gone up. Everybody knows that, 30 to 40%. Nick with Nomads got a hold of me and he says, is there any way we can amend that contract? He says that I'm asking for $5 per mowing per property. So it's it's $40 a week. Over the 26 weeks is $1,040 is what it comes out to. I don't know if it's unreasonable. I feel, Nick, they've always treated us well with all the mowing they do for us for the past however many years in the county. We spoke with the county attorney, and as long as both parties are okay to the change or the increase, we can just amend that contract. I still can't purchase a mower or find somebody to mow full-time like they would for it's actually $14,000 a year, but we add $1,000 extra for spot mowing for spring and fall, when the grass is in rapid growth process. But it would be a $1,040 increase for the year.
My wife is the treasurer for the Prospect Hill Cemetery Perry Center, and they got the people that mow that and the Wilkins actually, and they charge them $1,100 more for the same property. It's nowhere near as much more. That's what this is.
Yeah, this is like 8 or 9 different properties throughout the county, of course. They did take on the cemetery over there in Ferrisburg for us. And they were the only ones, we put this out to bid on, online and did all the advertising. And they were actually the only bidders as well in the fall.
So when you talked to the county attorney, you explained all that to her, right? So that's why she's okay with the change. Yeah, I was just gonna say, oh, that worries me some, but if they're the only bidders.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we contacted her right away before I wanted to feel Jim out for it, you know, I can understand it. They're a small business. They're already cutting us a break. And I know last year, we were going every year to year, I believe, on the mowing contract for a couple of years here. But last year they had asked for an increase and understood that there was no need for it with bidding coming up this year. But
Do we bid that every year?
it's every 3 years now.
3.
Yeah, we pushed out to 3 years, try to get that better deal, of course, for that bulk purchasing, but now with the increase in fuel. And I'll watch this for next year because if fuel prices do drop down, I'd like Nick in favor to drop back to the original contracted price. I feel that's only fair on both sides.
Maybe going forward, if we can have some language in our contracts that offer some sort of a economic escalation clause where it could bounce up and down depending on what. County attorney should be able to find
Kind of
some of
like
that.
by
because-
blacktop escalation.
Maybe.
clauses in there.
Yeah, but I mean, if it can go up, then it should also be able to come down, right? And then,
It's never the norm,
So-
but it,
right,
yes, I agree.
but then I think that we would avoid some of the,
Like a margin or something.
yeah. Just food for thought.
Okay, a motion? Motion by Supervisor Davis. For the discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Next is a bid award with Denuder Chevrolet in Albany for a new full-size half-ton rear-wheel drive van.
Correct. So we put that out to bid many months ago. After the third try, this dealership out of Albany was the only one to get back to us. A little more than what we anticipated for a van, but the availability is there. Like I mentioned, he has not taken the vans onto the lot yet, but we do have a VIN number at least identified for a vehicle. And it's waiting just by rail car to show up at his dealership and then they'll drop the thing off.
They'll deliver it?
They will, yep. That's part with the bidding process. That's right in the bid specs is delivery to site.
Okay. I know, but they've been working on this for a period of time.
Yeah,
You'll have that older van to
exactly. The black van can,
surplus.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And then we're gonna move over the shelving to save some money. The shelving that's in the black van will come out of it, go into this new van.
Okay. That a motion? A motion by Supervisor King. For the discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay, another professional service contract with True Green Commercial for spraying and management of various county-owned properties.
I reached out to 3 companies this year for this. Again, we went from a 1-year to a 3-year contract with weed spraying. And True Green came back with the lowest cost. I really like dealing with Jason and he built ladders, but it was very, very price-wise with the 3 contractors, everybody was $2,000 off. Jason being a school teacher, old school teacher, he understood the bidding process. He told me I won't be the cheapest, but I'll give you the best quality. But at the same time, we're holding them to a contract either way. So True Green, Cindy at True Green, she's really nice to deal with. And we'll show them what needs to be done this year and for the next couple seasons.
Okay.
They owe any liability, responsibility for the spraying?
All of it. They do. That's why we bid it out, because they have the license. We expect their license number within the contract, and then there's no problem with the EC or anything like that.
Motion by Supervisor Lazowski. For the discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Professional service contract, Seneca Performance Security System, installation of a new panel at DMV, panic buttons and programming the software to the central station, not to exceed $6,480.
Last year, we wanted to We had some issues with the panel at the DMV. I believe it's been there since the DMV was put in there, so about 20 or 22 years or so. Technology is getting outdated, so they had asked if we could budget to replace the panel, and I felt it best to do it this year. It should have been done last year when prices were a little bit cheaper. They are up about 20%. But after speaking with Rhonda, we felt it was best to do this as soon as we could this year. So now the DMV, that panel actually is the panel that takes all the panic button calls, as well as not just for security of the building, but the panic buttons from Board of Elections and OFA are monitored within this panel. So.
I'm sure you're covering everybody in that building.
Exactly.
Okay, motion. Supervisor Noor. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Does that all come out of your budget, or does the clerk budget cover any of it? It's out of yours.
Our budget will cover it. We went into this year knowing it needed to be done. We budgeted for it. Like I said, it came back a little more, but we knew everything was going to come back a little more this year.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, next, another professional service contract with MJ Mechanical for repairs HVAC related equipment in various county-owned buildings.
We had some issues with one of the heat pumps within the government center. Equipment's 2017, 2018 now wasn't when it was put in. One of the compressors went bad. It was going to be $6,000 to replace the whole heat pump. After $1,100 and some changing of parts and diagnostics, it's going to be an additional $2,000. But MJ Mechanical is they've helped us out with a lot of things at DSS already this year, so we're just increasing their contract so we can get this taken care of.
These all things that were supposed to be taken care of with the Danforth contract.
This is new equipment with Danforth. We're seeing this, those units run pretty much 24/7. The fans do. The compressor locked up after 4 years now for the air conditioning. So
it was something Danforth put in.
It was replaced by Danforth. I just need to get her some water quick. Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion for this. Number 5. Motion by Supervisor Davis. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next is an FYI with Healthy Home Insulation, Division of Perry Lumber and Hardware, for application of spray foam at the rotunda entry.
So the air block, yep, we had to insulate that. The spray foam was going to give us the R value needed to pass code. Reached out to a couple different contractors. The availability of spray foam was not so great. And then the availability of contractors was not so great. Hertz was able to get in there and get it done within 2 weeks of reaching out. So that's complete. The ceiling is in now. The sprinkler is in now. And we're still just waiting on some fascia block and some trim materials to open that back up.
It's looking good.
So have you been out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we going to have
Check it every day.
a ribbon cutting for that or anything?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope we have a big event for as long as this thing is taken.
Bernie, what is your anticipated timeframe for opening? Do you have one?
I don't. I keep saying that.
My elected,
I would, yes, I would hope so. I would hope within the next 30 days, we're 100% open again through there.
Okay.
We're waiting on push button equipment for the automatic openers, which has been just waiting on parts. And then again, with the block and fascia metal, but everything on the inside is ready to pretty much open up.
Have we talked about it all? Maybe naming that rotunda kind of in memorial in memoriam for Todd McConnell, or we talked it all about potentially.
I don't think we have.
We haven't talked about it, but it's something we can speak about. That might be.
I think, you know, given the facelift that we're doing in there,
I think initially that was mentioned, and I think the family didn't want that. at the
There were,
time.
right, there were some things that
did they say that? They didn't want it?
Lauren was pretty,
Yeah. To keep things low key, things could have changed by then, but
We'd have to check.
Because they do have a golf tournament, yeah, right?
Right,
Every
but-
year in his honor.
but out of respect to Lauren and the family, we need to check with them again, but initially they said no.
Okay.
Would you have the ability to check with them
Yeah.
and get back to us? It's nothing we need to do today.
I can put it off another month.
Put it off behind,
that's another month.
We want to make sure it doesn't snow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, number 7, the standardization of equipment of all the HVAC monitoring controls, programs, and equipment throughout the county buildings.
So what this is for all the controls through Schneider Electric, but UNS Services provides this. And we've had their controls on our equipment for many, many years now. And when we looked into the Ag Center to add the controls, I questioned Kristen, have you ever seen something that a resolution or anything that says we need to use these controls? I don't want to stray from their equipment because, 5 or 6 other buildings have them on it already. Why would we bid out something totally different? So Schneider Electric is on contract. I think actually both. Is that correct, Kristen?
Yeah.
UNS Services is on through
UNS
Sourcewell.
is on state contract
Or
as well,
so-
and they represent Schneider Electric in our region.
Right, so it's their controls anyway with UNS's service. And it's already on our equipment. It just makes sense to keep going that route to be able to monitor these.
So there's no additional expense to doing this. This is just a.
It's a
an action
standardization
by us
of,
to.
exactly. It allows me
Using those.
to bypass that bidding out of,
So it's just like a Best Buy deal that we.
I've never actually looked out
Best value.
as a best value deal because like I said, all of the other controls were already, they're already here.
They're already
when
there.
Yeah, so every now and again, the county does pass a resolution for the standardization of, I think we have them for door latches and
Right, that's the.
wasn't it like shades or something at the skilled nursing facility? It was something kind of weird.
We have a few of them.
Yeah.
over the years.
But then everything is the same,
Yeah.
right? And
One part. Storm, one part to replace.
Schneider Electric actually had to provide a letter. Anytime we do this, like if it's for sole source or single source or this standardization, they provide a letter that says we're like the only ones in town that do this, so.
Because they use the Schneider Electric parts.
Yeah.
For the UNS controls.
So there's some process to it.
They need to take action on this.
We do, we need to pass a resolution, yep.
Motion by Supervisor King. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Page 7. Special service contract, U.S. Service and Start Tech Group Company. Installation of new DDC controls for the HVAC at the Ag Center. That to exceed $97,000.
So that's what it's gonna cost to put controls on the rooftop units and through all of the HVAC system to balance that out. Is the $97,000 that includes that includes all of the installation and equipment. And then there's a yearly monitoring, which we're already in contract now. So that'll increase. I don't know what the increase is on that.
Is this different than the company that's been looking at the HVAC up there? You know, Kowski have somebody do it.
It is different. It is different. He had just his service guy that was looking into things and trying to iron out some of the issues. Actually, 8 and 9 kind of go together as well, only because the testing of the balancing when that building was completed was never, I spoke to Terry Mooney. He doesn't have any record of anything ever being balanced correctly in that system because they had two companies. The company that did the install of the equipment sold to another company mid-project. And then that contract just fell through. Whatever happened, the balancing was never done at the end of that project. So I would like to do these controls. It will definitely tell us what this entire building is doing for HVAC. We have this in our CIP line that's been highlighted to pay for this year. But there will be, like number 9 states, there will be $14,650 in balancing to go along with this prior to the controls being implemented to make sure we're actually getting the CFM that the building calls for, that the plans call for.
Will this improve the atmosphere at Quality Milk?
Next question. I hope it will. There were 2 different issues with Quality Milk. I think we have that on the run. And Jim Ratowski, Terry Mooney, both, they did put about $40,000 in equipment to better heat and cool that section. But it was with additional equipment. So.
I mean, you know as well as I do, we continue to get photographs of thermostats at 50 degrees and Quality Milk.
Exactly. So a lot of that's got to do with the equipment, but we'll get alarms for that stuff. And the thermostats go away. It takes central controls, so it takes space temperatures and it takes the average of the space instead of the thermostat, and that's what'll control the equipment.
So the purchase of these items will accomplish that.
It will.
And it will be controlled
Via computer,
not
by the wall. We can set it up that way, but I don't like to. I like to keep it at 72 in the winter and like 68, 69 in the summer.
Do you have the ability to check that from home, like on
I do.
the computer, and you can do things with a computer from
Yeah,
home?
both from home and remote. Yeah, from home, and then we have 2 or 3 sites within the county that we're able to do that from computers.
Okay, well, Mike says it's in his budget to do this, so if I build it, then spend 100,000 on it, the first 2 weeks, but
It's been 3.
yeah, okay.
Is it all passed in your budget?
It is.
it's all things that we knew were.
Yeah, we
knew that was going to have to do that.
Because it needed to be done a long time ago anyway, right, Jim?
Yeah.
Myself move that.
Okay, motion by,
Take mine, you got it.
okay, Supervisor Gazowski for 8 and 9. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
They do say equipment wise, it's 5 months out for the controls we need. So if UNS is $3 million in backlog right now, they have brand new buildings that are waiting to be open. And they cannot open, and a lot of them are medical facilities and stuff like that because the controls are on back order. So he guarantees by November, this stuff will be installed though.
Okay, the next one, another big nut, professional service contract with Milton Camp for replacement of the generator at the courthouse campus. We're going to use ARPA money for this, I believe.
We are, yep. So this will use up about half of the money that we wanted to allocate towards generator replacement projects. This is probably the most important generator of all of them, being that the jail and the dispatch and sheriff's department runs on this generator.
We get a little bit back, we'll probably surplus the old one.
Exactly. We'll dump that out, probably through Auctions International, yep.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of work to do prior to the new install, but it's all contracted through CAT and Ferguson Electric.
So this is diesel or natural
It is.
gas?
Yep, it is diesel.
So we
It'll
get a
be on
new
day
tank and everything?
It sets on a day tank, an 1,800 tank. So we'll be able to abandon and then remove the in-ground.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was this been out?
It's through Sourcewell. It wasn't bid. It's through Sourcewell. So it's vetted already. They're already on contract. CAT is.
Is there gonna be an issue with the DEC removal of that underground tank then? I guess.
I haven't crossed that bridge yet. We will definitely rope them in.
Yeah.
Those tanks are in a vault already, but there is water in that vault, but that's kind of how it's designed. But I don't know what else could be in that vault. I'll just call Devin. It'll be his problem.
He's still here.
Oh, he's still here.
Mike, I'll be on vacation.
So I'll call Pete. It'll be right. No, we'll work to get this removed as needed per DEC.
Okay, motion? Yeah, thank you, Alan. Motion by Supervisor Grant. Any further discussion? How long is this gonna be before we get it? Do you have any idea? You know,
54 weeks is equipment, 54 weeks out to get the generator.
so it'll be a year.
Next year, we're looking at for the next spring.
April 23.
Should see if Enterprise can get it for you.
Yeah, right. That's what I spoke with Dan. Want to know if Enterprise had buildings we could lease.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Yeah. And 11, discussion of grade and fill custodian position.
Backing up here. So this will just be a discussion on it. I'd like to move our current cleaner into a custodial position, changing up some of our duties. Yep. So initially, I thought it'll be a creation of a new position that is not in the county contract currently or the CSEA contract. So there'll be some steps along the way. I've already talked to Dan Farberman about. This will allow Kim to do some different jobs than she's been doing, some like inventory jobs. And it'll also, I want to count on Kim because she's right in Warsaw to do some night and weekend cleaning at the Ag Center. So what it does is it increases the cleaner position by $4,000 a year. But I would like to leave that cleaner position open to be able to fill that eventually to take over some more buildings, bringing more of that cleaning in-house. So initially, when we started this, Kim's cleaner position is saving the county $27,000 a year, having it done in-house compared to subbing out the government center and public safety project or buildings.
So we're not creating another position, we're just moving her up a position.
We have to create
the position open for now.
Well, we do have to create the custodial position, or custodian position. I have a senior custodian. I don't have a custodian, but it gives that pecking order. It'll give it some bracket.
Steve is considered the senior custodian.
He is, yes. So, and I think we'll wait until next month after it goes through HR. I believe is how Dan wanted to do that because this is a tested position and it needs to be approved through CSEA to add to the contract. It'll be a grade 2 position.
How is there a savings of that much money when we have to offer a benefit package?
$15 an hour is what a cleaner makes. Contracting it out, the government center alone was $55,000 a year. Public safety building was over 30. I have her cleaning both buildings for $54,000 a year with her benefits. So that's where we see that $27,000 in savings. There's also additional savings on the cleaning. Steve Miller picked up Board of Elections and also does Veteran Services. So there was like an additional $11,000 a year, and he was already here. I just supplied him with those duties.
Will he do the veteran services when they move into Ag and Business Center too?
Probably not. It'll probably be added right under their contract then. So
And they said they're moving first of June.
we'd like to have a ribbon cutting for that 1st of June. Between April and May is when we will complete that.
How long has she been clean? How long since we put her in that position to clean?
15 or 16 months. It was a year ago.
It's over a year.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was any issues with. There's been no complaints really, has there?
No. In public safety building, the sheriff had mentioned that he hasn't seen it this clean since Keith broke. Keith was,
Keith was eccentric.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, there was complaints over there with dispatch.
Yep. Having it in-house is more of a headache for me, but we're getting better service for the money. So backfilling when she calls in or when she takes vacation is difficult. Even the few times she was sick this year and we had TCCT back her up for a week or two, it's still cheaper at the end of the day.
I heard Crystal was doing it.
I was thinking.
She'll do it. Kristen will do it nights and weekends. She tells me all the time, whatever needs to be done.
Does a good job.
We've been with the county a long time too. She plans to retire here. So she's been here with county and the hospital for, I think it's over 25 years. So.
Okay, we got a motion on this to move it.
No, he'll bring it back.
Okay.
He was socializing the idea. That's the lingo we use. Yeah.
Hey. Wishing to bid roof replacement at Ag Center Storage Barn. Part of that 2020, what's that?
So that's $221,000 worth of work
220,000.
is what we want to do at the Ag Center. All of that is CIP funds. I talked to Janice a few weeks ago. This is what we came up with that we already have secured. So that the roof definitely needs to be replaced this year on top of that building.
No matter what we do underneath it.
Exactly. Right.
Or will you, is it a shingle roof or is it a metal roof?
Right now it's shingled. I want all the shingles off of it and we'll put steel. We'll have a contracted out and put steel.
You will bid this out if somebody come and do it.
Yep. So, and that $221,000 incorporates the $97,000 for the
Controls on.
for the controls on, yes, I'm sorry.
I have a motion by Supervisor Lord. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Number 13. is project closeout. Authorize chairman to execute the closeout documents for the Danforth Energy Performance Contract.
Brian's favorite.
Yeah.
So we want to get this closed out. The equipment's been running. We have the issues under control at the public safety building. We did send them their last payment of $15,000 so many dollars. Now we're just going to close the book with Danforth. So the next round.
Won't be the next round.
You satisfied, Kristen? Are you satisfied?
That was my, did they satisfy the terms of the contract? They did.
Excuse me? We did.
Took a bath.
Yeah.
What are we for?
Still choking me up, this Danforth thing.
Her ball.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Ellen.
Thank you. Let's get this off our desk. All right, I was gonna say,
We lived and learned, we'll do it again.
Brian, they said your t-shirt's in the mail.
Right.
I think we should get a jacket.
Okay, any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Traffic Safety Board?
Nope.
Does anybody have any other comments for Public Works today? Not, we're here, you know, we didn't do
Still paying
space.
the bond on that, right? On the van for the
Oh, that was like.
I didn't know.
uh,
that.
I couldn't tell you.
Cindy, I read the-
Actually, Kristen, there was money received back though, right? This,
We did.
It
So we
was a
left-
check
so we left it-
$3,010
it's an estimate.
because of the interest aid reimbursement we applied for, so we didn't see the limit.
Right.
Saved it.
But I mean, we're-
I didn't want to say.
We got a couple more years before we don't pay for it.
oh, I'm sure.
I'm
We're
sure.
only
And we're
4 or 5 years.
replacing equipment that they replaced, like I said.
Garbage?
You do this.
I'll pass on that too.
For years.
Well, the efficiency of, but anything mechanical is never good for fall.
And we never really saw that. So they're replacing it with a 24/7, 24/7. It's gonna, it wears out.
You gotta poke the bear, don't you?
We, Dan,
That's right.
we didn't do any,
I was applied all the way.
review of this building when you did your tours there this winter. You know, if anybody's here, doesn't want to show them around, anybody's not familiar with it.
I've been here, I've seen it. I was here for my vaccinations 3 times. Good. I have one question though, maybe for Mike and Devin, or maybe Mike. And since you're here, Mr. Roach, is there space at the fairgrounds for storage?
I don't know, we don't take care of anything at the fairgrounds. That's a total different
Because
organization.
you use that once a year, right?
And then we have a caretaker that lives on the grounds and he and his wife rent out space in the buildings. All of the buildings are full of boats, RVs, cars. Silver Lake Marine rents the dairy barn and horse barn too. And they pay for square footage. Whatever they do with it is up to them. It is fairly full.
And that's
If I
season.
was paying for it, I would put more boats in the dairy barn, but they pay based on square footage.
Okay,
So they're full.
sure. And it goes to the
Goes to the
fair.
Fair Association.
All right. Revenue sources, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing else for Dan?
We're more the outside.
We should go like Florida.